So what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video on the channel where I was just thinking about zombies nostalgia. This is something that's spoken about an awful lot, not only in zombies, not only in Call of Duty, but I suppose every video game out there, especially when it's a franchise, and I suppose you could even relate this to anything. Movies. Whenever something new comes out, whenever the latest of whatever we are referring to releases, we then seem to look back at the older things, what we previously had, what came before that, and say, actually, that wasn't too bad. And that's especially almost always the case when it comes to the latest thing being bad. Of course, in this instance, I'm talking about Vanguard Zombies, but a tweet I saw from someone a long time ago, I would bring it up again if I could find it, but they said something along the lines of, you don't always have to look deep into something. There isn't always some secret meaning or explanation. Sometimes it's as simple as the community will call something bad because, well, it is. And a community will determine something as being good because, again, it is. From what I've witnessed, I've kind of come to realise that usually the community will complain when something is bad and the community won't complain when something is good. And you can apply that to any product. If it's bad, you'll get complaints. If it's good, you'll get compliments. But the reason why I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there is because, as I was mentioning, the point of this video, I want to talk about zombies nostalgia because we usually start doing this whenever a game is considered bad. And we all know this year with Vanguard, I've said it 1,000 times, so I'm not going to go over it again. But I just want to go back to all the games, all the way back to the very beginning, World at War, and go through each and every Zombies title, BO1, 2, 3, 4, and Black Ops Cold War up until now, and see at what points in time that Zombies nostalgia started to kick in, because I would say it didn't really exist during Black Ops 1 because the game before that was World at War, and BO1 in my opinion was definitely a better game. I also don't think there was much nostalgia during BO2. In my personal opinion, overall, that game was an improvement on BO1. Again, the same with BO3, since that's considered by the majority to be the peak of zombies, to be the best we've had to date. There definitely wasn't any zombies nostalgia for games previous to that. Maybe for some people there were, but for the majority, zombies had gotten better and better each year since it began. But I noticed after that, BO4, that was really the first time where I saw this phrase, zombies nostalgia, being used an awful lot. And then, since then, we've had Cold War and we are now onto Vanguard. We're going to go through all of that, don't worry. So yeah, the word nostalgia, when it comes to zombies, I think for this game mode, we've only really been using it for about 4 to 5 years since 2018. As I mentioned, World at War Zombies was the very beginning, Black Ops 1 Zombies was an improvement, BO2 was an improvement on that, BO3 was an improvement on that. It kept getting better and better each year up until the release of Black Ops 4, where that was where the community began to split. A lot of people loved the game, a lot of people hated it, there were some people in the middle, and that's where nostalgia comes into play because, going back to the very beginning of the video, if the latest thing that releases is determined by the majority to be bad, we then look at what came previously and think, well actually, those games were a lot better than I remember, or those games were always good. You end up saying, I miss those days. And sometimes nostalgia can get the better of you because it may replace those memories of those games not being as perfect as you imagine. It can make you appreciate what you used to have. There are plenty of different ways to look at it, but kicking off where this all began for me, which was Black Ops 4, there are plenty of good and bad things you can pick out about this game. Just going off what I didn't like about it, there was really only one big issue for me, and that was the perk system. I've always said if BO4 had the regular perk system that we've had in Zombies from World at War to BO3, or if it even had Black Ops Cold War's perk system, which is a more improved version of the original, since that was BO4's major flaw, I think that game could have been on the level of Black Ops 3, because it had everything. It had way more maps, if you don't count Zombies Chronicles, way more customization, it had a brand new storyline and the original. Yes, a lot of people didn't really like the gameplay either, but that wasn't down to the Zombies team, that was just BO4 as a whole. There were also other complaints like the HUD. It was too cluttered. It was considered by some people to be too easy, which if you compare it to Zombies nowadays, Cold War or Vanguard, BO4 Zombies is very challenging. But it was this game that made everybody look back at what we had previously, especially BO3, going from the highs of that game and think, well, damn, I miss the old days of zombies. And it's crazy to think now that it was only the game that came after BO3, which was what, 3 years later? It was as early as then where people were saying, we miss the old days of zombies. And if you compare that to, well, the time we are in now, 2022, 7 years later, 3 Treyarch Zombies games later, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I would say during that time, that wasn't nostalgia. To me, a part of nostalgia is looking back at something and praising it for its greatness when it wasn't necessarily as good as you remember. But BO3, like I said, for me, this is all in my opinion, it was. And so the next game that comes after that is of course Black Ops Cold War, and again, people were saying during this game, I missed the good old days of zombies, especially towards the end of its life cycle, in that massive dry period we had between, I would say, Firebase C and Mauer the Toten. There was a good few months where we really didn't get too much zombies content. A lot of the complaints were, well, this never happened during BO3 or BO4. Look at the amount of content we had in those games compared to Cold War. You could say Black Ops Cold War Zombies did have a lot of content, but it depends how you look at it and also what your playstyle is. If you didn't play Outbreak, then you only had 3 round-based zombies maps compared to Black Ops 3, which had 6, if I remember correctly, plus Zombies Chronicles, which was another 8. That's 14 zombies maps. If you compare that to even BO4, which had 4 zombies maps on day 1, and then another 4 DLC, that's a total of 8. Whereas Black Ops Cold War only had 4 round-based zombies maps, so if you didn't play Outbreak, I would say that game did lack in content. But not only in the amount of maps, the things to do in them were lacking as well. The amount of side Easter eggs was just nowhere near to the level that we experienced previously. The quality of things, such as cutscenes, I don't think were anywhere on the level of BO3's cutscenes or BO4's, how beautiful those ones looked compared to some of the awful looking ones we got in Black Ops Cold War. Another major complaint about that game was the uniqueness of the maps. I would say reused assets, but I know a lot of people don't like me using that term, so I'll just reword it as, I don't know, reuse parts of maps. However you want to phrase it, I think we can all agree that the maps that we had in BO2, 3 or 4 zombies, with the exception here and there, were a lot more unique and specific to zombies. They included a lot more content created by the zombies team in those games compared to Cold War. I've tried to word that as good as I can. So those were the major complaints about that game. However, the gameplay was praised, and Black Ops Cold War is an easy one for me to talk about because I've recently just gone back and played it quite a bit, just to experience an actual zombies game again, with having to play Vanguard just to get gameplay. Did zombies nostalgia exist during Black Ops Cold War? Were we saying, damn, I miss the old days of zombies? Yes, definitely. And that then brings us on to our latest game, which is Call of Duty Vanguard. And I don't need to talk about this one too much. I've just been thinking about it over the past few hours, and I have to say this has got to be the worst Call of Duty I have experienced. Not just the zombies, the game as a whole, the campaign, the multiplayer, the whole atmosphere surrounding it. Zombies in this game is in the worst state I have ever seen. There's absolutely nothing to do. It's the most boring experience I've ever had. You guys know I love the story. In this game, it's boring. There's a little bit of story information there, not much, but even the little bit that we do have, I don't care about it. The story that's being told in this game is, to me, from what I want from a storyline, it isn't interesting. I've already mentioned multiple times I don't like objectives in zombies. It's one of the reasons why I didn't play Outbreak, so I don't like the gameplay in Vanguard. And as for the Easter eggs, well, there isn't even a main Easter egg. There's no side Easter eggs, besides from the little radio orbs. Yeah, it's lacking on all fronts. So does zombies nostalgia exist in this game? Yes, I would even go back and say Black Ops Cold War, BO4, the 2 games that divide the community, those games are absolute gems compared to this. And as I just mentioned a minute ago, I've recently been back to play Black Ops Cold War, a game that I was mixed on, and playing it felt very, very good. Actually better than I remember, and it perhaps did make me appreciate that game a bit more than I did. And that's what nostalgia does sometimes. It can make you appreciate older things more. It can sometimes trick your mind and make you think they were better than they used to be. Or, going back to it all, sometimes it's as simple as we complain when something's bad and we give compliments when something's good. Just a topic I wanted to discuss. I'm going to end it there because I'm going to get some food. I'm absolutely starving. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree? Don't you? Thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.